Today I'm about to finish up mounting these last two motors and ESCs, and then I'll solder the ESCs to the bottom plate and we can continue with the build. Yesterday afternoon, last night, 8 p.m. or so, a very kind viewer gave me a heads up on these motors where it says counterclockwise and clockwise on them, and it has to do with this thread. And I checked them by just putting my finger in them and turn them in this direction, and that's tightening down the thread. But if I take a motor of an opposite flavor and turn it in that same direction, that's actually unthreading my fingernails out of the threads. So that's exactly what it is. It has nothing to do with this, switching around this for the direction, although that still probably applies. And the counterclockwise and clockwise here has to do with the thread direction. I've never used these kind of props before. Like I said in the other video, they bother me because I don't know how to balance them. But that's exactly what's going on there. I can't thank that viewer enough for the heads up and educating me. That's what this is all about. We share information. We get through this together. So let's proceed on. Let me put the last two motors on these two arms, and we'll solder up some ESCs today here. That's the last of the motors screwed onto the arms with 4 little screws there, tightened down nicely. This ESC has lots of components on this side. On this side, it's got some pretty hefty ICs and stuff, and it's more flat than this component side. So I'm going to put that flat side this direction on the arm so I can put some double-sided tape underneath it. Then after I'm sure that these don't have to be switched around, I'll put a tie wrap here and here and here to kind of snug those down and keep them. But I am putting the part here where the components are that can be easily damaged, rather than vibrating them against the arm. I'm letting these beefy components vibrate against that arm. Now, this can run into a limb on a tree, somehow getting through the props, and the tree limbs slap that and break some components, but that's the brakes. I'm not sure that's the way they wanted this all put together. They might have wanted these ESCs underneath the arm, which makes it vulnerable to rocks and stuff that stick up when you land, so I didn't want to do that. Maybe I should have, I don't know, 6.5 dozen the other. Because what this does is this, I assume, is the positive wire. I'm going to put it right through this hole here. That's what I've been doing on the rest of them. And the control wire through the big hole, like that, which might not be right. No, that won't work. I'm going to have to go back and change that, all of them. That would be pinching it here with the top plate. So that control is going to have to go through a hole. If it'll go through this one, nah, we'll not put it in there with the power wire. We'll put it through like that, and then I'll go back and do those others. We'll put this one through this hole. Now that's a little bit screwed up. There's how it's sort of laid out until I, like I say, tie wrap these down, tie wrap these. When I know these are in the right order, I'll put some shrink tubing around them so they don't touch electrically at all. Now this is a little messed up because this arm bolts to these two holes in the bottom plate. I assume the white is the positive. There's nothing on the ESC marked positive or negative. I'm just assuming the black is negative. So these wires are going to have to cross underneath like that, like that, to go to their respective solder pads, because the positive is on the right, the negative is on the left. If I'd put the ESC this way with those tender components, let's call them down, then it would have been straight through to positive and negative. Crossing those two battery wires over underneath is not going to be a big deal at all, electrically or otherwise. I was a little disappointed in this kit because the supply wires are simply a silicone, 2 pieces of wire. There's not even an XT60 or any other connector in this. I suppose that's because they let you put whatever connector you want onto these for whatever battery. But these solder to the bottom plate right here between the rear. Now I'm just going to take a XT60. I've got a bunch of them in the drawer here. I'm just going to take a normal XT60 cable and solder that onto those two pads that way. And then the ESC solder up here, 2 bolts through the bottom plate to hold all the arms on. That's pretty much the end of the physical build, because the top plate just goes on, 4 bolts per arm. Like I say, tie wrap down the ESCs and the wires for it. And again, I'm going to have to go back and pull out this control wire from all of them, put it through here instead of through there. But that's going to be real quick to do on all these arms. And take this bottom plate over to the solder station and pull me up a little solder on all the ESC pads, and go ahead and solder that battery pigtail onto them, and I'll be ready to screw these arms onto the bottom plate through these 2 holes right here in each one of them. Not much to that. So 2 more arms here real quick to run the ESC control cable through. And that's the way I'm going to do it. Like I say, if this had gone underneath and mounted the ESC like that underneath, then the polarity on these 2 wires would have exactly matched the negative and positive on the bottom plate. But I'm just going to cross those over underneath the arm. Won't make a bit of difference at all. I mean, at least I hope I'm right, that the black is negative and the white is positive. So there we go. Take this and this over to the solder station. Pull up some solder on these pads for the arms. Go ahead and solder this battery pigtail on the bottom plate, and we'll be ready to start screwing some arms on this bottom plate. There we go. There's all the pads tinned, as we say. Got a little solder pulled up on all of them. Just gonna melt that, and stick the other wires in. First, I'm going to get a little contact cleaner and a toothbrush, get some of that flux off there. Well, there's the power pigtail on there. That's never coming off again. Now I've got my motor direction diagram here, and I'm going to start soldering ESC supply voltage wires to these pads. I'm going to start with motor 1 right here. So the motor order says clockwise for 1. We've got a clockwise motor in that position, and I've test fitted a prop on it, and the prop's turning clockwise, so that's what we need there. I'm going to have to cut these wires. Oops, doesn't want to stand up. That's about where it'll be screwed down. These wires are way too long, so I'm going to have to cut them. I'm going to leave just a little slack in them for movement in the arm and stuff. The way the flame wheel is screwed down with 2 screws on the bottom and 4 on the top, this frame doesn't flex much at all. But leaving just a little slack in those wires is desirable. I went ahead and, focus. Please focus. Oh well. Went ahead and tinned those wires up a bit. That one looks like it burned a little bit. Thought this was silicone wire. Feels like silicone wire. That might just be brownish flux. But tinning those before we touch it all to where it's supposed to be, it'll just make it connect that much quicker. And I went ahead and screwed that arm on. That's going to hold it a little bit up. I think that's still kind of rigid, so a little bit of wobble there, but I'm going to grab the wire with the tweezers, pull it over there, and just touch everything. 1 down, 5 to go. Well, I had to move over to the main table. I've got 3 more to solder up. As I was doing the video last night, when I used the contact cleaner to clean up this flux, the video that I took showing the cleaned up flux didn't come out right. So you can kind of see it there. Never hurts to clean things up. So I got 3 more arms to solder on. Well, there's 6 arms screwed on and 6 ESCs soldered to the bottom plate. Got all the control wires coming in. I won't be able to tie wrap this stuff down until I get a flight controller in it, get these hooked up, and make sure all my motor directions and everything are correct. There's only one other thing I can do right now, and that's to put 1 screw of the 4 that go in the top plate in each of the 6 arms and put the props on, basically to just lock it all up and be able to easily store it across the room while I wait on the flight controller to come in. I ordered an airplane for my 2024 winter build yesterday, along with a flight controller for it and a flight controller for this. They may come this Wednesday. That's when I can pick up again with this one. This is basically the finish of everything that comes in the kit. It's just 6 arms, 2 plates, 6 motors, 6 ESCs. There's actually 8 props. There's 2 spare, but that's really the finish of the physical build part, minus the flight controller, RC receiver, camera, telemetry, GPS, etc., etc. So, all right, so that's it for a while on this. Thank you.